In every court, in every marketplace, and in every council chamber, men play their games with masks, to survive and to rule. You must see behind these masks. The one who reads hearts and minds is never deceived, but the blind man becomes prey to the cunning. Today, I, Niccolò Machiavelli, shall reveal to you the ancient art of knowing men instantly. Through 14 psychological tactics, forged in the fire of politics and power. How often have you trusted the wrong ally, been betrayed by a friend, or misread the intentions of a rival? This blindness costs men their fortunes, kings their crowns, and lovers their hearts. The problem is simple: most do not know how to read people. The solution, however, lies in understanding the timeless strategies that strip away deception. Learn these, and you shall never be a fool in another's game. Listen well, for what I tell you now is the foundation upon which all power is built. Men are not mysterious creatures, though they cloak themselves in words, manners, and appearances. They are guided by forces as old as time itself, forces that bend kings and peasants alike to the same will. If you learn to see these forces clearly, you can read anyone instantly, for all human actions are nothing more than echoes of these primal urges. And the first of these forces is fear. Fear is the chain that binds men most securely. Every man fears loss. Loss of power, loss of wealth, loss of reputation, loss of life. To observe a man's fear is to understand the leash that controls him. Watch closely how a man reacts when his position is threatened. His words will tremble, his eyes will shift, his voice will betray urgency. He may attempt bravado, but his fear seeps through cracks he cannot hide. The ambitious minister, who fears dismissal, will flatter his sovereign excessively. The merchant who fears ruin will suddenly agree to terms that moments before he scorned. Even the strongest general is reduced to trembling silence when he fears the shifting loyalty of his troops. Fear exposes the true weakness of men, and he who can recognize it will never be deceived by false courage. Yet fear alone does not govern men. Desire pulls them with equal strength. Every man hungers for something: wealth, pleasure, love, recognition, victory. You must observe not only what men flee from, but what they run toward. Desire reveals itself in the lingering glance, the eager nod, the restless hand. A man's true aim is rarely what he declares. He may speak of service to his country, but his eyes betray the hunger for personal glory. He may vow fidelity to his spouse, yet his heart chases a forbidden flame. Desire makes men predictable, for once you know what a man wants, you can chart the course of his actions. It is a map that he cannot disguise. Now we come to vanity, the most common and yet the most overlooked of the human drives. Men crave the illusion of importance more than bread or water. They wish to be admired, to be recognized, to be spoken of with reverence. Even the humblest man, who pretends to modesty, secretly thirsts for the praise of others. Observe how quickly men are pleased when you stroke their pride. Their eyes light, their chests rise, their speech flows like a river when they feel esteemed. Vanity is the easiest key to turn in the lock of human behavior. The courtier who believes himself wise will follow any counsel that flatters his wit. The soldier who is called brave will march into battles he would otherwise shun. Vanity blinds men, and once blinded, they can be led like lambs to any end. And then there is survival, the deepest, most unshakable instinct of them all. Strip away wealth, strip away honor, strip away titles, and you will see the raw truth. Every man will cling to life, no matter the shame. The merchant betrayed will beg for his livelihood, rather than defend his dignity. The statesman exposed in scandal will crawl like a worm, if only to preserve his existence. Even the proudest nobleman will bend his knee when the executioner's blade gleams in the torchlight. It is survival that unmasks men most brutally, for when life itself hangs in the balance, all pretense dissolves. The loyal servant becomes a traitor, the courageous knight becomes a coward, and the pious man bargains with any devil who offers him another day. So, when I tell you human nature is predictable, I do not speak of dreams or philosophies. I speak of what I have seen with my own eyes, in courts drenched with intrigue, in streets filled with merchants, in prisons heavy with despair. Men are driven always by these same four forces. They may hide them beneath fine garments and polished words, but their souls betray them every time. Look upon the man before you and ask, what does he fear? What does he desire? How does his vanity crave to be fed? What will he do to preserve his survival? The answers to these questions are the secret doors into his character. You will find them not in his speeches, but in his hesitations, not in his vows, but in the glimmer of his eyes, not in his boasts, but in the silence that follows his mistakes. The great prince knows this truth. He does not waste time believing in men's nobility or purity of heart. He recognizes that men serve him only so long as their fears, desires, vanities, and survival are satisfied. When these turn against him, loyalty vanishes like smoke in the wind. Thus, the wise ruler prepares, not to be loved for who he is, but to master the levers that move other men. If you would read anyone instantly, do not listen to what they declare. Words are weapons, masks, and performances. Instead, fix your gaze upon what governs them beneath the mask. Does their body stiffen at the mention of loss? Do their hands tremble when speaking of ambition? Does their chest swell when praised? Do they shrink when threatened with danger? Each gesture is a confession. Each silence is a revelation. The world may seem full of infinite complexities, but in truth, it is governed by these few, simple threads. Once you learn to see them, every man becomes an open book, his chapters written not in ink, but in the language of fear, desire, vanity, and survival. And he who can read this book holds the advantage over all who are blind to it. For while they stumble in darkness, believing men are enigmas, you will walk in clarity, knowing that human nature is as predictable as the rising of the sun, and as constant as the hunger that dwells in every heart. To command men, you must first understand them. And to understand them, you must learn to observe, not with the eyes of the careless, but with the precision of a hunter who notices every bent blade of grass in the forest. Men betray themselves not in their declarations, but in the smallest details they believe invisible. These subtle behaviors, these hidden cracks, reveal the motives that drive them, the loyalties they cling to, and the weaknesses that will one day undo them. Consider the way a man speaks when power is present. His words may be courteous, but is his voice steady or strained? Does he linger too long in agreement, as though eager to please, or does he hold back, betraying suspicion? When the prince enters the chamber, the loyal man greets with calm assurance, but the schemer overperforms, bowing too deeply, smiling too broadly, pressing his devotion like a merchant desperate to sell spoiled wares. Such excess is no accident. It is the confession of a divided heart, and to the keen observer it exposes a disloyal spirit. The hands, too, are treacherous informants. A man may train his tongue to deceive, but his hands remain clumsy conspirators. Watch them closely. A restless hand upon the dagger hilt, even when words are soft. A trembling hand upon the table when accusations are spoken. A hand too eager to grasp yours, squeezing with false warmth to disguise insecurity. The hands reveal what the mouth conceals, and if you master the reading of them, no man can hide his true station from you. But more subtle still is the movement of the eyes. The eyes betray loyalty more than oaths sworn upon sacred texts. Observe where a man looks when choices are weighed. If in the presence of his master he glances toward another before answering, then know his heart belongs elsewhere. If his gaze lingers upon wealth when he speaks of duty, then his true devotion is to gold, not honor. A fleeting glance at a rival, a hidden smile quickly suppressed. These are signs worth more than 1,000 words. Eyes reveal allegiance before lips dare to confess it. Even silence speaks. A man who hesitates before pledging support is already measuring whether betrayal profits him more. The soldier who delays answering his commander has already doubted. The minister who pauses too long before applauding the ruler's decree reveals not caution, but calculation. To the inattentive, silence is nothing. To the wise, silence is the loudest truth of all. You must also learn to study contradictions. Men often declare one thing, yet their behavior whispers another. The courtier who proclaims humility, yet insists upon the best seat in council, betrays a hunger for rank. The merchant who swears honesty yet conceals his ledger, with nervous speed exposes his corruption. The soldier who boasts of courage yet avoids the front line reveals his cowardice. To observe these contradictions is to pierce through the mask men so carefully construct. Weakness, the most dangerous trait of all, is always exposed in moments of pressure. The mask of strength cannot be worn forever. Watch a man when insult strikes him unexpectedly. Does he laugh it off, or does his nostrils flare with sudden rage? Anger reveals fragility. Watch him when fortune abandons him. Does he stand firm, or does his shoulders droop as though crushed by weight? Despair reveals vulnerability. Weakness cannot be hidden for long. It bleeds through gestures, tones, and expressions that the careless fail to notice. To the wise, these small slips are like cracks in a fortress wall, signs of where to strike when the time comes. But remember, the game is not merely to observe, but to interpret. You must ask yourself, why did he avoid the question? Why did she laugh too loudly? Why does his voice sharpen at the mention of another man's name? Each behavior is a clue, but the master is the one who strings the clues together into the chain of motive. A single hesitation may mean nothing, but when joined with an anxious glance, a tightened jaw, and an overabundance of flattery, the pattern becomes clear. Here is a man who plots in secret. Here is a man whose loyalty is for sale. Here is a man whose weakness will soon undo him. Do not mistake the art of observation for idle curiosity. It is a weapon. The prince who reads men well can turn foes into allies, or better still, expose allies who are in truth foes. He can predict betrayal before it strikes. He can uncover ambition before it grows into rebellion. He can spot the trembling hand of cowardice in his ranks before the battle begins. The greatest deceivers believe themselves concealed, but they are naked before the eyes that notice. The smallest gesture, the faintest pause, the most subtle contradiction, these are the windows into the soul, and once you learn to see them, no man can stand before you without confessing his motives, his loyalties, and his weaknesses, whether he wills it or not. In the theater of life, every man and woman walks the stage wearing a mask. These masks are not mere ornaments, but shields, weapons, and illusions designed to deceive those who cannot see beyond appearances. A courtier masks ambition with humility, a rival masks envy with flattery, a traitor masks treachery with loyalty. Yet, no mask is perfect. Cracks appear, edges slip, and with the right framework of observation, you can tear away the disguise and gaze upon the naked truth beneath. My 14 tactics are not inventions of fancy, but weapons forged from years of watching princes. Merchants, soldiers, and lovers betray themselves in the smallest of gestures. They are a framework to strip away deception and reveal the true nature of every soul. Understand this: the world does not reward honesty of spirit, but performance. Men act according to what profits them, not according to what is true. Therefore, the mask becomes their greatest tool, for it hides their hunger, their fears, and their schemes. Yet if you, unlike the blind, learn to see the fractures in the mask, you will expose what they strive most desperately to conceal. One of the greatest truths you must grasp is that masks are chosen to match what society rewards. Among the powerful, humility is worn as a cloak, because to appear too ambitious invites suspicion. In gatherings of equals, strength and certainty are worn as a mask, because weakness is devoured by rivals. In circles of affection, men wear the mask of loyalty, because betrayal is despised. But look closely, and you will see where the mask fails. A humble man who cannot stop boasting of his sacrifices is not humble at all. A confident man who shouts too loudly of his certainty is trembling inside. A loyal man who insists upon reminding others of his devotion is already considering betrayal. The framework of tactics is nothing more than a disciplined way of piercing these masks. You must study consistency. Does the mask remain firm across every setting, or does it slip when pressure mounts? You must test reactions. How does the mask holder respond when insulted, when praised, when ignored? You must examine alignment. Does his speech match his actions, or do contradictions spill forth like water through a cracked vessel? These tactics are the tools that reveal the hidden man behind the public mask. The art is not to demand truth directly, for no man will confess his secrets to an interrogator. Instead, you must create the circumstances in which the mask tears itself away. Confront a liar not with accusations, but with silence, and his unease will force him to speak too much. Offer a coward false praise of his bravery, and when danger appears, his flight will betray the lie. Place the ambitious man in proximity to power, and watch how swiftly his tongue sharpens with envy. The mask is not unbreakable, it crumbles under the weight of circumstance. The society in which you live is nothing more than a masquerade, a great dance of masks colliding with one another. Princes wear masks of mercy, even as they plan wars. Merchants wear masks of fairness, even as they measure profits in deceit. Lovers wear masks of devotion, even as they hunger for another's embrace. To believe the mask is to be led like a child into traps. But to expose the mask is to stand above men, to hold power not by strength of arms, but by clarity of sight. Consider also that men change their masks according to need. A man ambitious in court may appear humble in church. A woman bold in private may feign meekness in public. A soldier fearless in front of comrades may quiver in solitude. The untrained eye sees contradictions and is confused. The trained eye sees only strategy, a shifting of masks to suit the moment, but even a shifting mask cannot conceal forever, for the true face always bleeds through in moments of weakness. The framework of tactics is therefore a mirror you hold up to others, forcing their masks to betray them. When a man pretends indifference, you test him with sudden temptation, and if his eyes betray desire, you have seen beneath. When a woman pretends loyalty, you plant a rumor, and if her silence falters, her treachery is revealed. When a rival pretends courage, you summon danger, and if he wavers, you know the truth. The mask is torn, not by force, but by clever manipulation of circumstance, by observation sharpened into a blade. The great error of most men is to take words at face value, to mistake masks for truth. They hear a declaration of love and believe it eternal, though love may have long since rotted. They hear a vow of loyalty and rest secure, though betrayal is already planned. They see humility in public display and think it genuine, though pride festers in secret. But he who wields the framework of tactics never trusts words, never trusts appearances. He trusts only in patterns, in consistencies, in the betrayals of gesture and reaction that cannot be hidden. Through this framework, you will come to see the world not as it pretends to be, but as it truly is, a battlefield of masks. And in this battlefield, the victor is not the strongest or the loudest, but the one who can expose what others wish to conceal, the one who strips away illusions and confronts men with the truth they thought invisible. For once the mask is gone, once the naked ambition or cowardice or treachery is laid bare, that man becomes clay in your hands, and you may shape his fate as you please. To see clearly is to command effectively, and to command is to hold power over men who cannot see as you do. Knowledge alone does not grant authority, but the mastery of observation, the skill to interpret behavior, and the wisdom to apply psychological tactics creates a fortress around your mind and a sword in your hand. Those who master these tactics do not stumble blindly through the corridors of influence. They move like shadows, unseen yet decisive, shaping outcomes without revealing their hand. Power, influence, and protection are the rewards, and they are earned by those who learn the art of reading men instantly. Consider power first, not as a position, but as the ability to bend circumstances to your will. A prince who understands fear, desire, vanity, and survival knows how to manipulate the levers of human behavior. He can turn the ambition of one man against another, or redirect loyalty toward himself. Every gesture, every word, every hesitation becomes a tool. A smile can encourage obedience, a silence can provoke betrayal, and a well-timed compliment can bind an enemy to your side. The man who sees the currents beneath the surface of society does not wait for events to unfold. He steers them, guided by the patterns he observes. Power is never given. It is seized by those who can read the hearts of men and act decisively. Influence is the second reward, subtler but no less potent. Influence is not the shouting of orders or the brandishing of titles. It is the quiet shaping of perception. The man who understands motives can make others act in ways that serve him while believing it is their own decision. Consider the courtier who whispers a suggestion to a powerful minister. To the untrained eye, it is advice. To the master observer, it is the careful nudging of ambition and pride to produce a desired outcome. Influence flows from the ability to foresee reactions, to anticipate desires, and to exploit vanities. It is the silent art of control, exercised without the need for violence, without the risk of open confrontation. Those who master this craft find that even the most obstinate adversaries can be guided to serve their ends, unaware that they have ever been moved. Protection against deception is the third, and perhaps most vital reward. In a world where every smile may hide a dagger, and every word may conceal betrayal, the ability to discern truth from pretense is armor. A master of observation and tactics is not easily led astray. He notices the flicker of hesitation before a lie, the micro-expression of contempt behind a compliment, the subtle tension that precedes treachery. With these insights, he avoids traps set by those who seek to exploit ignorance or naivety. Deception is the weapon of the weak and the cunning alike, but the one who has trained his mind to perceive beyond the surface turns this weapon against its wielder. What would destroy an ordinary man becomes merely another clue in the hands of the wise. To achieve these rewards, however, requires more than casual attention. It demands discipline and vigilance. Observation must be constant, for human behavior shifts with circumstance, and even the cleverest disguise can change form. The master must study not only individuals but also groups, not only words but also silences, not only actions but also inactions. He must be patient, allowing the masks to slip naturally, for forceful confrontation often provokes resistance and concealment. The power of mastery lies in subtlety, in knowing when to act and when to wait, when to probe and when to observe quietly. Furthermore, mastery of these tactics allows you to anticipate and manipulate opportunities. A momentary lapse in vigilance by a rival can be exploited to gain advantage. A hidden desire revealed in conversation can be transformed into leverage. A subtle weakness in a leader can be the doorway to influence. Those who are blind to these patterns are always reacting. Those who understand them dictate the terms of engagement. They move as chess masters, not as pawns, seeing the entire board while others focus only on the piece before them. The rewards of mastery extend beyond the immediate. A man who understands motives, loyalties, and weaknesses can build networks of allies who serve willingly, not out of fear, but because their desires and vanities have been engaged. He can neutralize threats before they emerge, disarm rivals with perception rather than violence, and inspire loyalty that appears natural, but is in fact carefully cultivated. Power, influence, and protection are intertwined, for to wield one without the others is to be vulnerable. Only through the complete application of observation, psychological tactics, and strategic insight can a man move confidently in the world, untouchable by deception, unstoppable in pursuit of his aims, and masterful in the shaping of outcomes according to his will. Those who ignore these lessons fall prey to the machinations of others. They trust words instead of actions, appearances instead of reality, promises instead of patterns. They are blinded by their own vanity, ensnared by their fears, and destroyed by desires they cannot control. But he who masters these tactics navigates society like a lion among sheep, seeing the true nature of every player and moving with certainty and authority, reaping the rewards that come only to those who understand the machinery of human behavior. And so, we arrive at the final truth. Men are neither mysterious nor unknowable, but transparent to those who learn to see beyond the surface. Human nature is driven by fear, desire, vanity, and survival, and every action, gesture, and hesitation reveals what lies beneath the mask. By observing subtle behaviors, one can judge motives, loyalties, and weaknesses with a precision that seems almost supernatural. Machiavelli's 14 psychological tactics provide the framework to strip away deception, to expose the truths that men seek to hide, and to navigate the world with eyes unclouded by false appearances. To master these tactics is to command power, influence, and protection, not by brute force, but by clarity of perception, strategic insight, and disciplined observation. Those who see the world as it truly is, rather than as it pretends to be, move above men, shaping outcomes, guiding allies, and neutralizing threats before they materialize. In a world where masks are worn by kings and commoners alike, the ability to read anyone instantly is the ultimate weapon, a shield against betrayal, a key to influence, and a path to authority. Remember this: the wise do not rely on trust alone, nor on appearances, nor on empty words. They rely on patterns, on truths revealed in the smallest details, on the subtle confessions that no mask can conceal. When you apply these lessons, when you observe, interpret, and act with precision, you do not merely survive in the game of men, you dominate it. The power lies in knowing, and knowing lies in seeing what others cannot. For in the end, the world belongs not to the blind, but to those who read hearts and minds as though they were open books.